In case you're kind of new to this whole C# world, in this video I want to briefly go through some C# history. And this will kind of help explain, especially if you're coming from some other development background, exactly what's going on with C#. C# as a language was first introduced, now this was hinted at, in July 2000 at an industry event. And C# was actually released to the public 2 years later in 2002. Now, what's really interesting, kind of some useless trivia here about C#, during the development of the language, it was named COOL, and it was thought for a long time this is what it would be released as, and COOL stood for C-like Object-Oriented Language. Now, C# was part of the development and the rollout of Microsoft's .NET framework, and you'll hear me talk about the .NET framework quite a bit as we go through the course here. Now, the .NET framework was a major departure from prior Microsoft development languages and integrated development environments. Early on, Microsoft became really popular out there amongst developers with Visual Basic. This was a very simple programming language. It was not truly object-oriented. It was designed to very quickly and easily put out Windows desktop type applications. But of course, as our adoption of networking and internet and all this other stuff came along, it became really tiresome and really difficult to do what needed to be done outside of an object-oriented language and with the functionalities of standard VB. So Microsoft developed the .NET framework. We'll talk more about it later on. And C# was part of that initial rollout. C# was a new language being introduced, and it was based on existing C languages, but they had some very simple goals with this. Microsoft wanted to simplify programming in a C-style language. Now, it's long been recognized C-style languages are much more efficient, they're faster. Producing a C-style language really broadened the horizons of Microsoft development to a lot of very intelligent, very experienced developers out there. And this was a great way to kind of merge the two worlds. Now, C# also had another goal, and that was to provide a simple, modern, general-purpose, object-oriented programming language to the world on the Microsoft platform. Now, C# was built directly on the syntax and the semantics of C++. Now, providing C programmers an easy, natural entrance into the .NET development world. Now, if you look at C# out there, you'll also hear it referred to as Microsoft Visual C#. That's just kind of been a brand that Microsoft's tacked onto their languages and onto their development environments for quite a few years, and you'll still see it out there. Now, you'll obviously have already noticed that this is pronounced C#. The sharp portion of this comes from the musical notation for a tone that is 1/2 step up from a standard C note. And so obviously the implication here is that C# is, I guess, 1/2 step up or an improvement from standard C. Now, the number sign is used, as you see in the title up there, C# History. We're using the number sign, which is above the number 3 on your keyboard, because the musical symbol for the sharp is not a standard character on keyboards, and it creates problems. However, it is interesting to notice from a Microsoft marketing standpoint, both the number sign and the musical symbol are made up of 4 pluses. And so we have moved up from C++ according to the Microsoft marketing parlance. Don't send me any emails if you disagree with that. Okay. The development of this C# programming language was headed by Anders Hejlsberg, and he was the original author of Turbo Pascal and the chief architect of Borland's Delphi. Now, early criticisms of C# mostly dealt with its similarities to Java. And when C# first came out, a lot of people began to say, what is this? This is, Java version 2 or 3 or whatever it was. And everybody started comparing it to Java. And then later on, as more and more people worked with C# and looked at it, it really started to gain some steam out there. And then over the years, with each new version of C#, the two languages are becoming more and more different in the way they implement things and the way things are carried out and managed. Now, real quickly here, the first version of C# 1.0 was released in January of 2002, and the releases of the language versions usually coincide with a release of the .NET framework. and they don't necessarily have the same version numbers. And this was .NET 1.0. C# 1.2 was released in April 2003, along with the .NET Framework version 1.1. C# 2.0 appeared in November 2005 with the .NET Framework 2.0 release. C# 3.0 appeared in 2007, again in November, and this was released along with .NET 3.5. C# 4.0 came in April 2010 as part of the .NET 4.0 initiative, and then C# 5 was released in August 2012 as part of the .NET 4.5 initiative. So there's been a lot of experience here. You'll notice we're up around 10, 12 years here with this language. It has established a very strong following out there in the development community. And so you're in a good place here. Learning C# will look good on your resume, and you're going to bump into C# all over the place out there. So that's just a little history to see where C# came from and the kind of stability that it has right now out there in the marketplace.